Yeah, I can upload this the recording to YouTube link and send it to everybody, just for they have so they have reminders or if you found this helpful, you can look back on it. Okay, so great to see everybody. I just have so much affection for each and every one of you, and you're such a wonderful group of students. It's really wonderful to see. I'm so lucky I got to teach you, and I just thought that class last spring was fantastic. One of the best classes I've ever taught in my life. It was just really dynamic and it was just great. So good to see everybody. Um, does anybody have any questions about the video links that I posted last week about how the comps work? So, so like I said before, and remember, I'm a big repeater, which is probably you don't miss very much. On the day, you'll walk in to some dark room. Well, it won't be dark actually. And I can't stress enough how you need to bring in your bibliographies with you because your bibliographies will really help jog your memory. And for a lot of the titles, some of the titles anyway, that you're doing for me and the other professors, the argument will be embedded in the title. And so that's really helpful as well. So don't forget your bibliography. Okay. The second thing, and I'm going to repeat myself again, is time management. Be sure not to spend too much time, 2 hours per exam. I honestly don't know if there's a break. There must be a break at the 2 hour mark, but you might ask Dr. Kanov about that. Um, but so just keep time on your thoughts, and you don't want to do great on one question and do not so do so great on the other question. The other thing I would say is there's a huge margin for passing. Um, very few people get a high pass. Very few people get students rather get a high pass. You know, I screwed up my comps, and I only got a pass, and it didn't hurt me. So if you're a gunner, if you're like super competitive, you can aim for a high pass. I think it's probably a wiser use of your time to focus as much as you can on your pro seminar paper and not spend or just spend maybe this sounds wrong, but I'll say it anyway. Just spend the minimum amount of time studying for your comps. The your pro sim paper's a million times more important than your comps. But we do want in your comps, we want it's what I probably have talked about this before. It's the old thing you're sitting next to another historian on an airplane, and you are able to have a conversation with that historian about interpretation. That's kind of the way I look at the comps. I want you to be fluent in the language of historical interpretation vis-a-vis the readings that you're doing for my comps. And this was I was about to say when folks came in. Um, I'm almost positive that Gonzalez and Atabey, both Gonzalez's and Atabey, um, have the same framework for how they test you as well. Again, it's 80 or 90% historiography and 10%, 10 or 15% history. I'm pretty darn sure because this is the way that we were all trained. Anyway, my guess would be it's the same kind of it's really a historiographical exercise. So you're not tasked with explaining what the Civil War was, what the origins of the Civil War was, why the North won. Um, what you're doing is talking about the books that are in the reading list. By the way, I guess the only book that's not in the library is the Do book. Is that right? So I may just like not have you read it. I don't think anyone's going to care. You know what? You want to know a little secret? I don't even know what's on anybody else's reading list. I don't know what's on the other professor's reading list, and they don't know what's on my reading list. And so it's not like anybody's going to go through your comp and like do a check, you know, for to make sure you've done every reading. So you know what? I think we're fine without do, but you know what, if you feel uncomfortable with that, we can do. I can tell you about do. It's very, very simple. It's the South Sphere of a slave rebellion that led to emancipation. It's a very short book. It's a really good book, but I don't think we need to do it. Hey, can somebody explain to me how what I said about how to approach primary evidence, like Alcott and Jacobs, because they're not writing for a historical audience. How do you work those into a comp if they're not writing for other historians and they don't have a basic historical argument? How do you work that into your comp? Anybody want to give it a shot? Garrett, can I call on you?
Sure. Yeah, I think you said kind of how other historians would use that primary source or use the evidence presented in there for their own argument or as their own source and just how useful it is and or what historians w would use or how they would use it essentially.
Perfect. You nailed it. You nailed it perfectly. That's how you use primary evidence. How can historians use the primary evidence to make arguments? Um, and you might say in your comp, just very briefly, Louise May Alcott was not writing for a historical audience, but by looking at her book, we can learn about how the roles of Northern women and changed during the Civil War. And an example of, when I say 10% history, for Alcott, for instance, you can just say Louise May Alcott was an elite Northern woman who worked in a Union hospital in D.C. for about 6 months, 6 weeks, and then returned home and wrote a book about her experience. That's all you have to say about the history of Louisa May Alcott. And then what I'm going to be looking for as Garrett just said, what kind of interpretations can historians weave around Alcott's story? Same with Miles. You can talk about the mother and the daughter and where they lived and the trauma of separation, and you can introduce them and you can contextualize them, but then I want you to go to historiography, and in Miles' case, I think methodology is also quite important, more than actually most of the readings that you're going to do. Miles' methodology is extremely important. The methodology and the other readings are very, traditional, and Miles is very adventurous and I think really brilliant, quite successful. So, um, one paragraph per reading, I think. Maybe no more than two, and it can be a long paragraph. And I hope you had a chance to look at the Word document I sent out yesterday. And I think and you don't have to do this. I'm not telling you to do this. I'm not going to monitor how you study your comps. But I do think by coming up with bullet points for each of the readings, like the Miles example that I sent out yesterday, I think that's a really good way to approach the readings. Because what it does is it boils down the essential points that you want to make about each reading. And it's kind of like, the elevator pitch, bumper sticker. What you want to do is you want to be talking the language of historiography that you've been learning the last couple of years. And you just want to forefront that. And and so I think for each of the readings, if you have, I would say, 4 or 5 points that you want to make per reading, that should be absolutely good. That should be absolutely fine. And what we'll do before each of you takes the comp, or before you take the comp, I'm going to meet with each of you individually by Zoom and go over I'm going to have you send me your bullet points that you do your studying for the comps. I'm going to have you send me that, and together we're going to go over it. And I'm going to make sure that the bullet points that you send me, I'm going to make sure that, to my mind, that you've covered what you need to cover to pass your comps. And so, yeah, I'll go over it. Now, again, you don't have to do bullet points, but I strongly urge you to do it. I think it's a good way to study, and it's also a good way to help me help you review if you need it. Now, if anybody, now, where's a good place to find? Now, I'm all over the place. Number one, for most of the readings, how many, about 8 of the readings? How many readings did y'all cover in the paper you wrote for me? I haven't looked at them. How many readings did you cover in the readings in the paper you did for me last semester? Last May, rather. It's more than half of the readings for the comps, right?
I think only 4 or 5 of them we didn't cover, but most of them we did.
Okay, well, start there. Start there. Start there with your studying. You've already really answered. In some ways, you've really. I think the question I asked last May or April is exactly the question I'm going to ask on the comps. And just a heads up, the document that I sent out yesterday that had the miles talking points, that question you saw, if you've opened it, that's the question you're going to see on the comps when you take your comps on May 7th. Okay, no surprises. Again, you'll see 2 questions. And I don't want you to think, God, that Kelly, that son of a bitch, he lied to us. I knew I never could trust that bastard, you know, which I know that's what you think anyway. But wouldn't it be funny? It'd be funny to me if I gave you a completely different, 2 different questions. I think that after stressing, how straightforward it's gonna be. I'd love to be in the room when you get your comps if I do that. That would be very amusing to me, but I won't. So yeah, you'll see it. You'll see some bogus ass question, and yeah, if you answer it, you automatically fail. Okay. So yeah, so you have the comp question. You know what the comp question is going to be. Um, Oh yeah. So another thing, if you're looking for historiographical language or interpretation, where do I preach is the best way to look for basic historical argument. Where are some of the places you look? Remember, like book
Book
review?
reviews.
Yeah, book reviews. Remember, what you're looking for are just bumper sticker points that you weave into your paragraphs. Okay. And that so when I grade them, I don't read for don't worry about style or I mean I don't want to see a bunch of misspellings and stuff. What I do when I grade the comps is just, I look for those basic points that you have a good understanding of the arguments that the historians have made in the secondary readings, and the arguments that historians can create based on the primary readings, right? And like I say before you do the comps, I'm going to go over your bullet points or however you study for your comps. I'm going to have you send it to me. I'm going to review it, and then we're going to talk about it on Zoom. Now, another thing is nobody should study for their comps the night before your comps. Do anything else, watch TV, go to a Spurs game. I don't care what you do. Yeah. Don't, just if you prepare for this, I mean, you're already more than halfway there. So I don't want I don't want you to blow this off. I do want you to show a level of professionalism in the way that you talk about. I mean, because we want to send you out in the world uh, articulate, being in the language of historiography. That's really important. But all of you are really wonderful students, so I'm not really concerned. But yeah, don't. I mean, I've gone way over to the side of don't stress out about comps, but I do want you to demonstrate that you have a good understanding of the historiographical issues at play. Um, by the way, did anybody see Joan Wall when she was here a year or two ago? Remember her, the historian from Gary Gallagher? It was like a now thing. Anyway, I think her house might have burned down. She lives in Brentwood. She was the UCLA historian, a wonderful person, but I wrote her and haven't heard back. Anyway, I'm worried. Um, let's see. What else? Any other any other questions or concern? Oh, let's do a timeline. When should I start meeting with you all one-on-one, would you say? I'd like to do it like beginning in the first week of February. Or maybe let's see here. I've got a calendar somewhere. Um, let's see here. So I am gone. Let's see here. Anybody have a calendar handy? I can't find mine. What's like the second week of February? What's the first Monday of the second week?
The third.
And then is the 10th the Monday?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't we start meeting? I'd like to start meeting with you all like the 10th, the week of the 10th. Okay. That gives you time. I mean, it's coming up kind of fast, but that gives you time to kind of review your papers from last year and come up with kind of a bumper sticker, the study guide. So does that work for everybody? Hey, when is the Now conference this year? Jackie was talking about it. Are you all supposed to give papers at the Now conference? Anyway, does anybody know when it is? Okay. Well, I don't.
The presentation is April 2nd to the 3rd.
Oh, it's in April?
Mhm.
Oh, good. Then it won't interfere with this at all. Okay, good. That's good news. So yeah, let's start meeting the second week of February, just to make sure that everybody's on track. And then we can meet as much as you want as we move towards the comps. But that meeting, the next meeting when I'm meeting you individually will be a really key meeting. Like I say, the I'll go over the study, the bullet points that you send me, and I'll let you know what you're doing right and what's missing. Okay? Hey, did y'all have a chance to look at the miles bullet point that I sent you? Do you have a sense of what I'm looking for when I talk about the bullet points by looking at that? Is it clear? Do you think that that's a helpful way to study? I see V and Jackie. Do you think it's helpful, Jackie? V, what do you think?
That like helps get all your thoughts together. Like on each.
Well, that's the big thing. I just want you to, and that, that's why that's why oh, here's another suggestion about the day of. When you go in and you have your bibliography and Dr. Kano says go, start jotting down just quick thoughts about each reading before you start answering your test. So what I would do if I were you is I'd bring in the bibliography and then I'd have a bunch of spaces between each of the readings. And when Kano says go, just start making like the little bullet point things just to jog yourself. And just spend like just a very few minutes on your bibliography, writing down the key points the key historiographical points that you want to make, and just kind of a shorthand, right? So that when you go to write them, you can look over at your bibliography, and those words will jog your mind, and it's like this is the essential historiographical points about this reading. And I think that's well worth about 5 minutes, and just really quickly jot down the points that you want to make, just a word or two to jog your memory. You don't really in your comp, you really don't have to have an introduction or a conclusion. Most comps that I've read just end. And there's it's not necessary you might want to have a brief introduction, but you don't really need a conclusion at all. You just stop. Again, none of the folks that I know, that everyone that's working with you all is a very student-friendly professor. And no one's going to be looking at questions of style and passive voice and all that kind of crap. You just want to get the info down. So anyway, I do suspect, but don't say I said this to anybody you're working with, because it'll just cause you problems maybe, that the other professors you're working with are going to run the comps the same way I am. But you know what? You'll need to check with them. And don't say, well, Kelly, you would never do this, but don't say, Kelly's doing it this way. No one, professors hate that. So, anyway, any other questions? Concerns? Yeah, B.
It was just a question on the abstract when I was looking over the abstract. Is the last line supposed to be Lincoln? Because they had Washington in
Say, last line supposed to be what?
it. My question on the abstract, it said Washington. It said something about Washington. I wanted to know, was that supposed to be Lincoln right there?
Did I make a typo or something?
I'm not sure. That's all I'm asking.
You know what? Send it to me. I'll see. Maybe I did something wrong. I don't know. You're talking about the
Okay.
abstract on V, I feel like I never got your paperwork.
Yeah, you remember you CC'd me when you said the Takano?
Yeah, no, I know. Kano said it was, but I don't think I ever saw your abstract. But you know what? I'm not going to look at anybody's. I mean, the abstract, it's uniform. I think everybody had the same abstract. I'm trying to
Yeah,
make
you
this
sent
thing.
it to me. You sent us the abstract, but I was just making sure that it's supposed to be. I didn't know if it was supposed to be Washington, but it said Washington.
Oh, I probably made some kind of stupid mistake.
Oh,
I'll take a look. But can you send it to me?
yes, sir.
And yeah. Okay. What else? Anything else?
I had a question, sir. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. And then
Okay.
I'm bad at looking at chat, but you go first, Garrett.
Yeah, my question is, I know you say kind of just jot stuff down and we're gonna have the bibliography with us, but do you have a preference or certain requirements for us for Chicago style and footnotes, or is there anything you need from us, like, or I just want to make sure you're not expecting like quotes or um the full formatting when we reference a book? Like, do you expect first name, last name, the title, the year? Like, just want to kind of understand your expectation for the Chicago style.
You want to hear something sad, Garrett? I don't even know what Chicago style is. I never learned it. I mean, I always hear the words, but it's a very good question, and the answer is no.
Okay.
All you have to do is put in Louisa May Alcott, Tara Miles, who wrote the Misplaced Massacre, Ari Kelman. All you have to do is write their names.
Okay.
And you might just write the title. You might write in Misplaced Massacre, Ari Kelman. We do not expect, it's a really good question. We do not expect you to come in and be able to pull direct quotes from the reading. So yeah, that's a really good question. No, you don't. We're not looking for direct quotes. Um,
Perfect.
so you can put the name of the author, you can put the book, contextualize it in a line or two. That's all the citation you need. No footnoting, nothing like that. So really, gosh, has anybody that I'm talking to taken a Blue Book exam? Or are you too young? Anyway, it's like a blue book exam. You know what a blue book exam is? Like in the old days, there was a actual blue book that people would do their exams on. And by old days, I'm talking about 10 years ago. And no one does. Well, you know what? People might have to go back to blue book because of AI and cheating. But anyway, it's like a blue book exam. No expectations of quotations, citation, anything like that. Very, very good question. It's just like what's the interpretation? Now, but let me amend that slightly. If there is like a quote, um, um, like Kelman, he talked about looking from the West, uh, Native Americans saw the Civil War differently, or as a war of empire. Remember, we had a great discussion in class about how if you know what, if you can remember just a brief line from a book, that's never a bad thing. But I'm just talking about just a few words, right? And that again, that's the bumper sticker aspect of it. But Kelman is a good example of a title that really helps you because so it's misplaced massacre and why is it how's it misplaced, right? It's misplaced physically, it's misplaced in terms of history, and that's a good example of a book title that might help you with the arguments that are in the book. But good question. Hey, Noah, you had a chat question. I'm terrible about chat. Okay. 9, we have class. Oh, we have class. So what, that was a while ago. What do you mean we have class? Yeah, we have
That
class.
was that was in reference to comps on Friday. We have class Thursday night
Oh, you do?
for our pro sim or sim.
You should get Gonzalez to cancel class that night.
We'll see.
We have Wednesday class with the guys.
Do we? Okay.
Yeah, is it
Then I
Wednesday?
guess it's my other class then. I don't
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what?
Wednesday.
Who do you have class with Thursday with?
I guess it's Adobe.
Oh, he's very nice. Just tell him you're having comps. I don't know.
Okay.
He's such a nice guy. Would it be beneficial to use all the time we have for comps, even if, oh, that's a really good question, Noah. I don't think you'll have any time left. That's my guess. It very, but if you feel like you've covered the waterfront, in terms of both, I get you're doing Atabay, right? And me, between both of our readings, you feel like you've made the bullet point, historiographical points that you wanted to make, and you're done. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to stop, but really, overwhelmingly, it's students feel like they don't have enough time, not that they have too much time. So, but
I have
again,
a question.
what's that? Go ahead.
I have a question, Dr. Green.
V, I'm
Can you
sorry.
hear me?
I
Oh,
can,
yeah, I said I have a question. I wanted to know, is there a minimum, I guess, word count that we're supposed to have per question?
I love students' obsession with word counts. V, for all the other students, there's no minimum word count, but for you, it's 20,000 words.
Thank
I'm
you.
not even gonna look at the content of your answer. I am just gonna hit the word count button. That's how I'm grading you. No, no, no. No word counts. Can I be honest with you? This is the last, this is such a headache for we professors, comps. It's like it's like nobody is going to pour over your answer. We want to make sure that you le reach a level of professional discourse. That's really important to us, and I don't want to minimize that. We want you to talk the language of historians, which really all of you all do now. But yeah, no one would ever do a word count. It's just not that kind of exercise. We just want to make sure that you speak the language of historians and that you can talk intelligently about historiographical issues of the specific readings that you're doing for your comps. But you brought up something that I should mention. You do not have to argue in your comps, even if you totally disagree with the interpretation of that you're talking about, don't spend any time arguing with the historian. You do not, that's not your job in your comps. You don't have to argue with anybody. All we want to see is the arguments that the historians are making. So I don't want to see anybody argue. It's just a waste of time. I don't care whether or not, and I'm saying this in the nicest possible way, I don't really care whether or not you agree or disagree with the historical interpretations that you're talking about in your comps. I just want to know that you know what those historical interpretations are. So it's not your job to argue with anybody. I just want to see that you can talk intelligently about the historical issues that are raised in your bibliography or for your comps. Okay? Okay, I think that's it from my end, unless anybody has any questions. Any questions or concerns? So, are you all is anybody else doing comps outside of this group? Or Is anybody not working with me? Like who? Do you know any other students? What doesn't matter. Don't let other
Josie.
Yeah, don't let other grad students freak you out. And don't freak out any other grad students, okay? Grad students, the source of most of the world's misinformation is grad student gossip. And so everybody needs to stay calm during this process. And yeah. But like I say, it's kind of a rite of passage that people freak out about comps. You know what people really freak out about is oral comps. Written comps are a piece of cake compared to oral comps. Those oral comps that's really freak out material. But we y'all don't have oral comps. So you've always done well on written history tests. That's why you're in grad school. And I'm quite sure that you'll do well on this test. Okay. Well, this was worth it, I think. I hope. And any questions at all? Any on the journey moving forward? Any concerns? Don't hesitate to reach out. I still have my UTSA email. And just everybody have a great semester. And I look forward to meeting with you one-on-one and hearing how things are going. Okay? Okay.
All
Well,
right.
anything else? Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to see if I can send this via YouTube, and if I can, I think we've got things covered. And I look forward to meeting with everybody in about a month. Okay. And I'll be sending out stuff before we meet individually. Um, um, okay. I'm going to let you go. Have a good evening. Have a good week. Have a good semester.
Thank you.
Bye, Dr.
Yeah.
Kelly.
Thanks, Dr. Kelly. You have a good one.
You say bye.